Today we're working on Sebastian's DR, starting with his front brakes.
Old, new. So these were probably about half.
This is our makeshift paint booth. We painted the rear grab handles on Sebastian's DR before we install the side racks like on my bike. And the kickstand got a quick spray too.
I was inspecting my front wheel bearings to make sure they were okay for next season, and noticed that the previous owner installed the seal or the dust cover backwards. It was installed like this instead of sealing it properly. So I'm just swapping that around. The bearings are brand new basically.
On Sebastian's bike, the chain looked in pretty good condition, but it's actually kinking pretty bad.
So since my chain is toast, it was putting actually quite a bit of drag. I tried spinning my rear tire and it would come to a dead stop within half a turn, so I was wondering if it was my bearings or the counter shaft. Anyways, I disconnected everything. The rear bearings are spinning perfectly fine. They're brand new basically, and the front sprocket is perfectly fine too. So the chain, as you can see, is kinking easily. We got a new one on order. Ordered a DID VX2 PRO-Street. It was 66% off for $61.99, so pretty cheap. And it's a good chain, X-Ring, sealed. I ordered a 15-tooth front sprocket. I did, that bike's already got a 520 conversion on it instead of a 525 chain. So I ordered the front sprocket that's as thick as the original to have as much contact on the splines of the counter shaft. That way it doesn't wear out the shaft any faster. It's still going to be 10 millimeter thick, the same as the Sunstar that came originally on the bike. And I upgraded the rear from a 42 teeth to 44. I wanted 45, but I can't use 1545 combo with the stock 110 link chain, and that's the one that was on special. So went 2 up in the rear. So that should be perfect for us for the kind of riding we do anyways.
Pretty corroded.
Yeah.
I think I took that off, I guess.
Bunch of corrosion. Good as new. Try to get rid of all the old grease. Well, it's about as clean as I can get it.
Thanks.
Come on.
Wiggle it. There you go.
That goes there.
My front brake pads were pretty worn out, so I got the new ones in. And I don't know if this bike had ever been maintained, so I didn't rebuild it, but I cleaned everything out. Cleaned the caliper, pushed the pistons back in, cleaned all the dirt that was in there, re-greased the slider pins. I took the old grease out and then put new synthetic grease in there. And now it's good as new. And it's moving freely, which is what you want. And I'm just about to put the front wheel back on.
See, now it's floating. The axle's torqued, but it's torqued into the bottom of that fork, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now what you need to do is basically seat the axle in here and the fork properly.
I took both spark plugs out for inspection. They're both pretty good. I just had to readjust the gapping on it. It's a nice light brown color. Just cleaned it up, put a bit of anti-seize on the thread, and that's going to go back in. Now I'm taking the 4 10mm bolts off the valve covers. I'm going to inspect the valve clearance on the intake and exhaust side. Previous owner probably way over tightened it and it's stripped. When I tried taking it out, it just started notching it, so ended up chiseling a slot into it and then using a punch to get it to turn. So I got the filler gauge in there. At first I couldn't even get it in, which means it was way too tight. I just loosened up the nut here to unlock it, and just by turning it an eighth of a turn, now the filler gauge works in there. So now I'm just going to put a number 2 square screw head on top of the valve in there so that it doesn't turn, and then tighten the 10mm bolt back in place. Best way to do it is to go sideways like this. All 4 valves were tight, like too tight. I couldn't even get the filler gauges in, both intake and exhaust. So I ended up loosening all 4, both intake and both exhaust.
Yes, that's my stomach growling.
Thought the bike was starting for a second.
Dinner time, honey.
I am currently waiting on parts, so I'm going to reinstall the racks and finish my side cases, just like we did on Summers, and that'll be it for now.